Hi, it's Jason from Coastal Asbestos here on the Gold Coast, the Gold Coast #1 asbestos removal company. So today we want to talk about planes, trains and automobiles and shipping. So asbestos was widely used in all of these industries because they are lightweight, fire resistant, chemical resistant, all of the things that manufacturers wanted, and they were dirt cheap. So let's start from the top and work down. So a lot of asbestos was used in the aviation. A lot of the early Apollo missions, space travel, all that kind of stuff, even the space shuttle had asbestos components about it. So anywhere that they had to have something that was lightweight, fire resistant, chemical resistant, heat resistant, asbestos was used. So you can imagine in the engine components, shielding aircrafts have a lot of stuff packed in really tight. Asbestos fabrics were used to shield things, asbestos paints were used to coat things, and that's how it got into the space program and into aeroplanes and all that kind of stuff. So next come down, let's talk about cars and trucks and cranes and trains and all that kind of stuff. So just about anything that had an internal combustion engine back in the day, before asbestos was banned, they would have asbestos gaskets and some sort of asbestos heat shielding products, whether it was woven fabric around wiring or asbestos paint on firewalls. It could be just about found anywhere in these vehicles. There's been a lot of talk about vintage cars. I mean, you look on the internet at the moment, and there's a resurgence of vintage cars. It's amazing how many vintage cars are getting sold in Australia. Now, some of those cars may still have asbestos in them. So you just got to be wary of buying these barn fine cars and these single owner, these things that have been stored away and haven't been used because they probably haven't had those gaskets replaced and all that kind of stuff. I mean, a thing that people don't really realise is if you're bringing in American muscle cars or European luxury cars that are vintage, they have to come through customs in Australia because it's illegal to import asbestos in any quantity in Australia. So those cars have to come through customs and they have to be inspected. And there was a rally, Maserati had their 100th year anniversary or something, and they brought 16 cars over, 16 vintage Maseratis, and they were going to do this thing around Australian Drive, and they got stopped by Australian Border Patrol, and those cars weren't allowed on Australian roads, and they got sent back because they said, well, we can take the asbestos out of them, and then obviously they're priceless Maseratis, some of them worth $1 million plus. They weren't going to let anyone pull them apart to get the asbestos out of them because asbestos is only banned or has restrictions in about 50 countries around the world, so it's still common everywhere else. A lot of equipment that come in back in the day, and still now, imports are a big deal for asbestos. Things like trains that have come in from overseas. It looks like China and India are still big users of asbestos, and they sort of, I don't know how they forget that these products have asbestos in them. So they're found in a lot of things, like we said before, in gaskets, heat shielding, spray-on coatings, in cars. The trains that Queensland ordered, they've come in just about anything. So shipping. So asbestos was huge back in shipping because just as you can imagine, it was lightweight, it was cheap, fire, chemical, electrical resistance. It was one of the industries that used asbestos heavily was the naval industry, shipping. There's pictures of naval warships, Americans, they have a lot of stuff on this, where they have a picture of a warship and the areas that contain asbestos. Now, it would be easier to say the areas that don't contain asbestos because it's less than 5% in some of these ships. Because you've got to remember, ships are made of steel and they're in oceans. And sometimes they're going to the coldest part of the world. So some of these ships will have asbestos linings on them because the two things you don't want inside a ship is water and fire. And the asbestos is not affected by water or fire. So it was a great insulated thing, and it was great to keep out water from sections of the boat and fire, because they have like gaskets around all the doors that separate. A lot of ships are built in separate compartments, and those compartments can be shut down, and all those things, those doors all had seals on them. A lot of those seals had to be asbestos in case there was a fire, so fire couldn't burn through the seal, and water resistant, so they couldn't dissolve in water. So there's massive amounts. If you ever get a chance to go on an old Navy ship, especially in Brisbane, we had the Diamantina. Down in Sydney, there is asbestos all through those things. It's just everywhere, and a hell of a lot of asbestos diseases come from people that were in the Navy. So that's basically it. I'm not sure how much aware people were of that, but just goes to show asbestos is lurking anywhere, as using over 3,000 products, and everyday items that people used and relied on were no different. So that's it for me today. Jason from Coastal Asbestos. If you like this video, there's plenty more on our YouTube channel. Okay, thank you.